What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? This is your boy Mike Robinson, and we are here again on another episode of Let's Take a Walk. Um, as usual, the week just kind of flew by. I felt like yesterday was Monday, and here we are. But God allowed us to see it. Make us through the week, through all the hectic stuff that was going on. And I'm glad to be here with you guys once again. And once again, we have an amazing and awesome guest on the show today. We have Dr. Leslie Francisco McClendon. She is the senior pastor of C3. Let me get it right.
That's right.
Who is it? Calvary
Community church.
Community Church. Okay, got it. I'm sorry, but C3 for short. I had my wife and my family actually had the opportunity to attend a couple of services, and when we were searching for a church home, and we were definitely moved. We were definitely touched by the whole service. I don't believe that Dr. McClendon was there the days that we went. I believe your husband spoke when I
Oh,
was
wow.
there. But anyhow, this is Dr. Leslie Francisco McClendon. She's the senior pastor of C3. For those of you who may not know her movement, be familiar with her movement, I'm going to kind of give her the floor to kind of give a little background on herself, her ministry, and everything that she has going on. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm kind of out of breath. I'm kind of trying to slow back down, but but I'm going to give her the opportunity to kind of reintroduce herself and give a little background on who she is and everything that she has going on.
Perfect. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me and having
Absolutely.
me on your podcast. I'm honored to be here. If you are watching this and you have not shared it yet, please share this on your timeline. I'm pretty sure we're going to have some good discussion today. As you
Absolutely.
stated already, my name is Leslie Francisco McClendon. I currently serve as the senior pastor of C3, which is short for Calvary Community Church. As a matter of fact, my 1 year pastoral anniversary is tomorrow. So it is crazy. I assumed senior leadership right smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. So that was a journey. I also am married. My husband, I will be celebrating 6 years this upcoming May. My son turns 3 on Monday. So May is a crazy month for us. I just launched a t-shirt brand called Historic and just finished up a terminal degree, doctorate degree just last year. So I've been on the go, but all is well. We are kicking and moving along, and God is still good. So I'm happy to be here with you on your platform.
Absolutely. And listen, I truly appreciate you being on. I was really um looking forward to this opportunity. I mean, I look forward to all my interviews. Don't get me wrong. No disrespect to anybody that I've had on platform, but I was just really looking forward to this interview because I there's just so many questions. I don't even think we have enough time, really. But I want to start off just basically. You said how long did you say you were in ministry? You've been in ministry.
That is a loaded question. I was actually born into a ministry family. My parents have been
Hmm.
pastors as long as I have known. My grandfather actually planted the church with my grandmother that I currently serve in now. So I preached my first sermon at 7 years old in like a peach frilly, itchy looking dress. And I just remember going to my dad and I was like, I feel like God gave me a word. I don't remember what the word was. So I don't remember what I preached on, but I think I just knew that I was going to go so long, I only preached like 3 minutes. But I started getting extremely serious my freshman year in high school, started preaching youth Sundays around 15. But I was formally ordained in 2010 at 21 years old. So if we want to do like legitimate ministry, I've been in ministry for, I think this will be 11 years full time. But I've always sensed that I had a call ever since I was really young. So I've been at this for a long time.
I I want to say that like you when I have a guest on, usually when I have a guest coming on, I kind of immerse myself in that person. Like I try to,
Hmm.
if they have any video content, if they have anything on Google or
I'm the
whatever,
same way.
I try to immerse myself in it. So one thing that I noticed about you, you are um, probably one of the more visible pastors that I see, that I've seen.
Oh,
Like, and
wow.
what I mean by that is that you post a lot, you
Hmm.
pictures, words of encouragement, videos of encouragement. You do you provide a lot of content of yourself, and I don't. I'm not saying that I don't see it in other pastors, but I don't think I've seen it quite as prolific as what you do.
I guess
So
that's not a
my
bad thing,
question to
right?
you on that is
Okay.
that yeah, it's a good thing.
Okay.
um, is is that on purpose or is that on purpose? And what I mean by that is that
Hmm.
um, is it on purpose in the sense of just like promotional, or is it on purpose, or is it, or should I say, is it with purpose?
Hmm.
Is that something that you intentionally do to try to kind of give people kind of a behind the scenes look of who you are and some of the things that you're into?
100%. I think if I try to post with purpose, and if it's promotional as a byproduct, then that's great. But one of the things that I want to do is
Mhm.
I really feel called to show people that there are some pastors and leaders out here that actually live what they preach about. And I think one of the things that really gets under my skin is what I like to call is performative Christianity, where we're one way on the stage in a pulpit and we preach all this kind of stuff. And then when we go home, or when we're out, um, eating dinner or whatever we're doing as a social gathering, we're a completely different person. And so I love to post who I am. So when I show up and people meet me, they're like, "Oh, you really are kind of the same person that I see on stage." So that's very intentional for me. I want people to know that I'm a real person. I try to even post not only like encouraging and motivational messages and inspirational things, but also like food, things that I like to eat. If I go bowling or golfing, just to show that there's more than me, than just one side and just a preacher. Because I think if we're supposed to be salt and light in the world, then I got to show light in more than just one place and more than just the pulpit. And so I would say that it is definitely, I post on purpose, but
Wow,
with a purpose. And if promotion is a byproduct of that, then that's wonderful.
wow. So was there a moment or a series of moments that brought you to ministry that made you feel like, okay, this is my calling, this is what I um am purposed to do? Was there a series of events, or was there like a Saul type of moment where the light shined down and you just kind of had that moment of clarity?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked me this question. Ever since I was young, and I mean young, young, I had this pull to just love people and preach the gospel, which is, of course, good news. And when I was 3 years old, I told my parents that when I grew up, I wanted to be a preaching pastor. And it's funny because you can talk to all the friends that I went to like elementary school with all the way up, and they'll say, you know what? Leslie is the only one who said what she wanted to be and didn't deviate from it. Because you know how it is. I mean, when we're in elementary school, we'd be like, when I
Mm,
grow up, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a doctor, I want to do this and that, and then we end up doing the
right.
total opposite. But I was the type of person who, ever since I was young, I always knew that I had a call to ministry,
Pay it
and I
forward.
always feel sometimes like an anomaly too, because you'll hear it said, and I get the revelation of the intent behind it, but you'll hear a lot of leaders and preachers say, "I never wanted to pastor. I didn't want this life." And they really make it seem like in order to go into ministry,
Hmm.
it's a horror story. And I mean, it's not glamorous, but I was the type of person who was the opposite. I always knew that I wanted to love and help God's people. and show people that God really did come to give us life and life more abundantly. And that's not to say that I didn't have any moments where I was like, oh man, this isn't for me. My husband's up here. He said he wanted to be a dinosaur in elementary school. You are crazy. But yeah, I just kind of held fast to that. And I did have a couple of bumps in the road. Like when I went to college, I went to a conservative college. And when I showed up on campus, I remember I was one of three women in the local church um, theological studies branch. So my major was practical theology with a concentration in local church pastor. One of three women. I was pretty much the only one who finished in that track. And there was pressure when I went there. I remember when I showed up, one guy was like, "What are you doing here? Don't you know that God didn't call a woman to preach?" And I hadn't heard that. I
Wow.
had grown up and I was super affirmed in my calling. You know, you hear little things here and there, but
Mhm.
I had never heard someone say to my face that I was in the danger of hellfire. And that did toy with me a little bit. For a moment, I wondered maybe I should just drop this whole church thing. And I wanted to go study communication. So I thought I was going to be like a news anchor or something like that.
Mhm.
But I remember distinctly in college, I think around the age of 19 years old, I felt Holy Spirit was talking to me and said, you know, those were words from Paul talking about, I suffer not a woman to preach or teach. But he said, did Paul call you or did I call you? And I was like,
Wow.
how do I respond to that? Like I that gave me the fuel and the energy that I needed to say, you know what, you're right, God, you put a calling on the inside of my life, and I'm going to go forward and through with that. So
Wow.
here I am.
So what role does your family play? Have they been supportive throughout the whole thing, or was there any pushback?
My family plays the biggest role. If I'm honest, they are my biggest supporters, sounding board, also advisors. As I stated a little earlier, I'm a third generation succession plan. And so family has really been everything. That's not to say that we always see eye to eye on everything, there's some give and take. Um,
Mhm.
but for me, the support has been unparalleled. Like I'm sure even now, I don't know if my mom knows that I'm live or not, but she's gonna share it as soon as this is over. You know, they are always, when one of us is doing something, the other is like, how can I show up and support? Because if nobody else is
Absolutely.
gonna be present, we're gonna be there and we're gonna fight for each other. And so we try to even model that too, to show people that there are some families that still get along, you know, and I think especially in church being a PK, I know my fair share of PKs who can't stand church, who can't stand their parents. They're done with the whole thing. But
Mhm.
my family was the type of people where when we were at the dinner table, we weren't talking about church members. We were talking about how our days were going. So I didn't grow up
Mhm.
hating church.
Right.
Ever since we were a young age, we've always had buy in. And so they wouldn't say stuff like, this is mommy and daddy's church. It was, nah, this is our church. And so they've been very supportive. And I think that's what also helped even the transition when we had our succession last year. And we've really modeled that in front of the congregation, in front of the people that we see. So it's not like fake. Because, you know, sometimes you can look at people and say, oh, they're doing that for the gram. They're making up stuff.
Right.
You know, they're posting on
Right.
social media, but that's nothing but a filter. I am, my oldest sister will be 37 in May. I'm 32. My youngest sister is 30. And to this day, we still go visit our parents like twice a week. We're still having family dinners once a week. Like we are a close knit family. And even so much to the point, I remember when we were growing up, we tried to pitch for a reality TV show. And, you know, the producer was like, nah, y'all too boring. Like people need spice. You know, we want to see some drama and stuff like that. Like y'all too wholesome. We don't want that. So
Wow. That's
yeah,
crazy.
we're very supportive of one another.
That is crazy. Wow. Um, the one thing that I always find interesting when I talk to pastors and just generally people who are tasked with leading people.
Mhm.
Um, Being a senior pastor, I'm sure that you are a party to a lot of things and privy to a lot of things that the average lay member is not. You see death up close. You
Oof.
see marriage up close. You see divorce up close. You see financial lack up close. You see all types of things um, as
Hmm.
a part of the job.
Yep.
Um, how is it a challenge not to take that home with you? Like, how do you how are you able to service all those different types of things and still be able to come home with a clear head?
It's hard. I haven't mastered it, if I'm being completely honest.
Hmm.
I still bring work home with me. Um, we've had not a lot, but even a couple members to pass away just
Hmm.
since this pandemic has happened. And I find myself, even after the eulogies and things I preach, still holding on to that. Like, man, God, really? You had to take this one? There are so many, other people. That sounds a little insensitive, but I, it's very difficult. And one of the things that I've been looking up, so I'm still waiting to commit to it, is even encouraging myself to, like, I got to get a therapist, and I think
Wow.
with pastors or leaders or people in general, we think that therapy is only when something bad or wrong is going on in our lives.
Mhm.
But for me, I look at it even more so for like preventive measures. What does it
Mhm.
look like for me to talk with somebody who's like not in my family or in my church or in my inner circle, to just get some things off my chest and to give me some strategies and to help me process some things so that I won't take it home. And so it's a growing experience. I have not mastered it. I'm still working through it, but it's difficult if I'm honest. And then the other part that's difficult too is I always pray and I ask the Lord. I say, Lord, would you give me tough skin but maintain a soft heart? So I think
Right.
in ministry we have to be so careful not to become numb because we see stuff all the time, right? Like
Mhm.
you see death, you see the marriages, you see other things that go on, and sometimes you can just be like, oh yeah, it's another marriage. Oh, this happened, whatever.
Mhm.
And so I have to ask God, like, keep my heart soft and don't let me just
Mhm.
get so used to things that I'm just like, oh yeah, here goes another thing. For example, and this is pretty personal, but my husband and I, in 2017, we suffered a miscarriage. So we had lost
Mhm.
our first child. And I remember when we were sitting in the doctor's office, the doctor was like, yeah, the fetus isn't breathing, blah, blah, blah. And we were like, what? But because he had seen that happen so many times, he was just callous to it. He was used to it. To him,
Mhm.
this was just another event. And so at that moment, I was like, how can I not get so used to something where I just talk to somebody like, oh, you're just another statistic or whatever. I don't want that to happen. So it's been difficult.
Wow. That's very transparent. You are the first person that's ever said that. That's ever expressed that they actually have had a challenge with that. And that's something that I always I wonder, like I said, with people who are tasked with the job of leading people. That must be like a huge responsibility. Um,
Mhm.
do you in this climate, we're talking about pandemics and we're talking about racial injustice and we're talking about
Mhm.
government upheaval, you name it. Never before in my lifetime have I seen where whatever it is that you stand for, you have to stand for it right now. This is like never before in my lifetime has this been more prevalent than what it is like right now. S-
Mhm.
I say that my question is, and this may sound like an unusual question, but
Okay.
have you in this climate, have you ever felt the need to be more black than you already are in this
I
climate?
I see what you're saying.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's if we're being transparent and honest, I think sometimes there's a struggle there too, because what I wrestle with is, even though I'm Black, I still want to be sensitive to everything that's going on. So I think sometimes pastors feel like we have to speak into every single thing. And I think what's
Hmm.
messing a lot of us up is that we're speaking on things that we're not knowledgeable about. And so you
Mm,
get a lot of pastors and leaders who are getting up and saying stuff on Sunday. and they're handling this situation so irresponsibly. And so I think that's been one of my biggest challenges in this pandemic, to know that, like, I support, obviously, being a person of color, justice and all of that. But at the same time, how do I delicately balance this, especially in the middle of cancel culture? It's like, if you say nothing, you ain't down. If you say something,
Mhm.
you said it wrong. And so it's been
Mhm.
very challenging as a leader, trying to figure out what are the right words, how far is too far. Everybody has eyes on me. I say the right thing, I don't say enough. I don't say anything at all, I'm in trouble. That's been pretty difficult. So I think for me, it's been taking on in this season a position of humility. And that's hard too, because pastors are always used to talking so much. We got to have
Mhm.
the word on everything, right? But
Right.
for me, it's been so like, I, I don't know the answer to everything. So I need to
Mhm.
find some people that I can partner with, who can say, hey, Dr. Lesley, like, I know you thinking this, but that ain't right. Like, let's not put that out there.
Right.
So humbling ourselves to the point where we're willing to be educated by somebody who knows more than we do. And I think
Right.
a lot of times there are a lot of leaders who just aren't willing to take the position of humility, because they want to be the first person to say, that they know the answer to everything, and I just don't. But yeah, I get what your question is saying, but it's been hard. It has been such a struggle to navigate this whole season. And yeah, I think I see where you're coming from. But yeah, it's been difficult.
Yeah, and see, you got to get out of my head, because that was gonna be, I was gonna be kind of, that was gonna be like my next question. I was gonna ask you, do you feel like in this past year, year and a half, 2 years, do you think the church has done a good and an effective enough job, gaining, just simply gaining context? And what I
Hmm.
mean by that is that, um, and this is just my thought, my opinion. I
Okay.
think that, the church is conditioned to has been conditioned to deal with things from a neutral standpoint. Like, something can be
Yeah.
wrong with, yeah, something can be wrong with you, right?
Hmm.
I don't know what it is, but I'll just say, Lord, I'm praying for you. I'm going to pray for you. I say, Lord, whatever it is that's going on with Dr. Lesley, heal it,
Yep.
touch it, fix it,
Yeah.
repair it, restore what she lost, whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
But I feel like in this season, instead of me saying whatever is wrong with you, I think that God has been calling for us to approach you and say, Dr. Lesley, what's wrong with you?
Mm.
And you tell me, hey, my foot hurt, my back hurt, I
Yeah.
got a headache, whatever. And we say, and so instead of me saying whatever's wrong with you, I say, Lord, touch Dr. Leslie's headache, her foot, her back. These things, you know what I'm saying? In other words, we have it's time to be more specific and pinpoint in the time in the things that we're trying to combat. But I don't feel like we always, like I said, gain context, because, like, I use the analogy, we watch the protesters on television, right? We watch them walk the streets, we watch them hold the signs and things of that nature, and we think we know why they're out there. But if you canvassed, some of
Hmm.
these people, you would be surprised to know that their sensibilities are all over the place. There are some people that
All
might be
over.
out there, right? So
Yep.
some might be over there thinking that they're going to get on television. Because they just want to get on television. You got some people over here
Yep.
that they want to see what stores get broken into, so they can see what's what they can get out of the store.
Exactly.
Or, you know what I'm saying? Or some people just want to be a part of a mob and just be able to just do whatever they want to do.
Some want that photo op. They want that
Right.
Instagram picture.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
that's what's trendy right now.
Right.
So in other words, like I said, the sensibilities are all over the place. So my question to you is that, in your opinion, do you feel like in this season that the church has done an effective enough job trying to gain specific context in the hearts of the people?
Hmm. I would say some have. I tried not to judge all churches based off a couple that may not have done so well. But I
Mhm.
think that the churches who want to last beyond this pandemic and beyond everything that's going on pay attention to trends and hear the heart of their congregation. I think that, too, it depends on I think pastors don't talk enough about. I really do feel like everybody has a target audience or people to whom they are called to. And I think what gets a lot of churches in trouble is when people move out of their assignment. Like there might be one church that is literally called to an entire region and they speak on national platforms. Another church might be, hey, I'm here to tend to my local city, right? Another
Right.
church might be like, I'm called in this context. And so then I think that the same thing that you brought up about sensibilities out in the protest is almost the same with the church. And it really depends on what context you serve. But I try not to get in too much trouble by judging the entire church
Hmm.
by what like a couple of churches do. So I think it
Hmm.
just really depends, honestly.
Okay. That's I absolutely can respect that. Let's shift gears a little bit because the content is kind of heavy. I want to get back to it, but
But
let's
even
shift
when you
gears a
were
little.
saying too, like the content is definitely heavy, but as far as like where I see myself in the climate of injustice and stuff, I see myself as a concerned citizen, concerned leader. But the hard part is I'm still trying to remain optimistic through it all, you know?
Right.
And I think that's been the struggle for people of color is we get to this point now where we tired of fighting. Like
Right.
I've heard people say, I've been peaceful for so long, peace ain't working no more, you know?
Right.
And then
Right.
other people been like, well, I've been fighting for so long. It don't matter how long I fight. It is just what it is. And so the struggle has been remaining concerned and optimistic at the same time and walking that line. And that's difficult. That takes a toll on a lot of people.
In a broader sense, like my mom grew up in the deep south,
Mm,
and she told me that when she was a kid, the white farmers would shoot over her and her sister's head when they
mm,
walked from home from school. They would shoot over their heads to make them run away and do all these things. So like with some people, particularly in the older generation, it just hits harder for them. You know what I
that's
mean?
trauma.
It's just really, really, really deep rooted. You know what I mean? And that's why I wonder. You know, I asked the question. About context because we can assume we do assume a lot of things when it comes to that. Like I said, we watch what's going on TV, and we assume that we know why the people are out there, why everybody
Right.
is out there. We assume that they're out there for the same thing. You know what I mean?
And
And
they're not. Yep.
and they're really, really not. And then in
Mm,
terms of the church, to your point, we all each ministry is called to do a different thing, but it kind of adds an added nuance when you're a woman of color, a man of color, and you got to
mm-hmm.
stand up. You have to stand before a multicultural
Mm-hmm.
uh, group of people and attend to their needs while still
Processing that
being.
yourself. Yep.
Yeah, right. So that's one of the reasons why I just really, really respect what you and others do because I mean it has to take your mind in all different
Mm-hmm.
directions. But I'm gonna shift gears for a second. Um, let's talk about her story.
Okay.
What's the origin of her story? What's the story behind
Well, I am, as you can see, a female in a heavily dominated male field.
it?
It is still very rare for people to see women in senior leadership roles. For
Yeah.
instance, when I assumed the roles of the church, the initial plan was that my husband and I were going to co pastor together. We were talking, and he said, you know what? If truth be told, you were going to pastor this church whether I was here or not. I said, yeah, that's true. And we were talking, and he said, if we were to go to a website and our pictures were together, who would you assume was the pastor? Like the man, right? Just by default. And he said, you know what? I feel called in this season to support you in whatever way that you can. So he said, I tell you what, like you knew that you were going to do this. You be the senior pastor, and I'm going to be the assistant pastor, and I'm going to assist you in whatever way you need. And I was really blown away because what was interesting was, if I'm telling the truth, I wanted to do the co-pastor role at first because I wanted to be able to hide behind somebody, right? Because it's different when you're a senior leader
Right,
and something
right.
goes down, they're looking at you. And so I was trying to like hide behind him, but I knew that God called me to lead. And so that's what happened with her story too, that lots of things are funneled through the eyes of men. Um, and even though we know that he has a story, I felt like she has a story as well. And that's where her
Absolutely.
story was really birthed from. And so the tagline for her story is because men aren't the only ones making bold moves. Now, that's not to say I don't want people to label me out here that like I hate men, all that kind of stuff. I love my husband. I love the men of God. And so it's none of that kind of stuff, you know? And
Feminist,
so
feminist alert.
but that's the crazy
Yeah,
part. Like
yeah,
what's difficult too in being a female in leadership is once we take pride in ourselves and we love that God called us as female to do something, people kind of want to brand you and be like, oh, so you one of them feminists, right? And it's
yeah.
like, you take pride in being a dude. Like, I'm just
Right,
happy that God created me female. That's it. And so,
right.
and even in the back, I have this tagline that says, "God is within her; she will not fail." And so that's just an encouragement that God is in the middle of all of this. That whenever I'm in the workplace, whenever I'm in the marketplace, wherever I am, that I can make historic moves because God is within me with everything that I do. And so even I have this tagline under her story that says "in everything," and it came from my late grandmother. She passed actually February of last year, and I assumed um, leadership just a couple of months ever. But she had this scripture that she absolutely loved, and it said, "In everything, give thanks." And I think
Mm,
for so often, pastors and leaders and people have taught like for everything, give thanks. But it's like, no, when you really look at it, I'm not just going to give God thanks for the things that God has given me. I'm going to
mm,
be able to be content in all situations. So no matter what I find myself in, I've got to be thankful in that. And so that's really where it came from.
wow, that's powerful. That's absolutely powerful. Um, Historic. So this was one of the questions that I sent to you.
Hmm.
Christians in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Do you feel that it's important for there to be a Christian presence in the marketplace? And if you do, why?
Yeah, the Bible tells us that we're supposed to be salt and light. Light doesn't make a difference in the middle of a whole bunch of other lights. Light
Mm,
makes a difference in darkness. And so I think that the Christian presence is so important too in the marketplace because somebody needs to know that not all people who love Jesus are crazy. I think that Christians get this stereotype that if you love the Lord, you're weird and you don't know how to talk
mhm,
to people and you only speak in tongues, you don't know how to speak in English. But everyone is not called to the traditional pulpit as we know it, especially in this pandemic with the church being closed. If you're exclusive to the building, I feel like we miss out on a lot of people sharing the good news. And so I see historic fitting in because if we're honest, especially in the marketplace, women in leadership are on the rise, right? We've got Vice President Kamala Harris, like the
mhm,
second highest position in the land. It just is what it is. And so, other than my tagline, we talked about how even on the back it says that God is within her, she will not fail. I really even see me wearing this t shirt as evangelism when I think about it. I like to call the brand lifestyle evangelism, meaning that when you look at my life, I want my life to be a living epistle. I don't want to have to
mhm.
come up to you and give you a track and say, read this, and then God's going to love you. I want you to
Right.
look at the life that I live and say, man, there's something different about her. So when
Mhm.
people see this, God is within her, she will not fail on the back. I want to be in the grocery store and someone see the back of my shirt and be like, wow, sis, I really needed to see that. Like I've been feeling
Yeah.
some kind of way and I read that thing that says God is within me. You know what? God really is within me. Like I didn't preach to you. I didn't invite you to my church. I didn't give you a business card, none of that kind of stuff. Just the fact that I was walking through the grocery store was an encouragement that, hey, in the middle of this, I was just trying to get some milk and eggs. I got a message that God is with me, you know?
Right, right, right. And just kind of to reiterate what I was saying earlier, when I was like just doing the research, just looking at all things Dr. Leslie, um, you are very present. Like it's almost, and this may sound funny, but it's almost you almost have a presidential
Hmm.
type of presence. You know what I'm
I
saying?
received that. I accept it.
I'm looking, and I'm like, I'm looking at one picture, and you flying an airplane, and I'm like, is she really flying an airplane? Or this is not a real picture. This is staged right here. This is not for real. She's not
That
really
is
flying an
funny.
airplane.
I was co-piloting, so I don't have my pilot's license. My father
Mhm.
is a licensed airplane pilot, and
Okay.
so he lets me try to control it every now and then, but I give it right back. So I fly with him, but I can't fly nobody else. But I do
Wow.
soar up in the clouds. So yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. Like your husband is right. Like I can look. That's the first thing I thought. Like I'm looking at the pictures and I'm watching the videos and things of that nature, and that's the first thing that comes in my mind. It's just it's almost presidential. Like you're giving the people who you are, but it doesn't look staged. It doesn't look fake. It doesn't look like you called the media. I'm going to be here, so come here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just living you're living your life. You know what I mean? That's super awesome. That's super awesome to me.
Thank
Um, so we talked about you about Christian presence in the marketplace.
you. Hmm.
Um, do you struggle with did you struggle with that in the beginning? And let me the reason why I ask that is that sometimes, particularly pastors from larger ministries, they kind of get that stigma of, oh, they're about the money. They're, you know what I'm saying? Look at the car they drive. Look where they live. Look how they carry themselves. Look what they do. Um, did you experience a challenge in your mind going into it? Like, okay, I'm the senior pastor of this ministry. Is it gonna look like? Is it gonna look like trying to I don't
Hmm.
know, you know, is this a money grab? You know, it look like it's like does it look like a money is it gonna look like a money grab to people?
Yeah.
Was that a struggle for you?
Yep. It was. And that's why I'm so thankful. My family has been very supportive. So my parents have put 30 plus years in. And one of my prayers has been to God, like, Lord, let me learn in 3 years what it took them 30 to learn.
Wow.
And so that's been like a really sincere prayer of mine. And even thinking about it, they gave me the wisdom that you can spend your whole life wondering what are people going to think about you, where you got money from, all this
Mm,
kind of stuff. And then by the time I'm 60, I'm like, oh, I'm still driving this, same car, doing this thing because I'm worried about the opinions of other people. And if I constantly keep my attention on other people, I'm going to miss out on, the things that I feel that God has for me. And, you have to live down stereotypes because for some reason, pastors or people think that pastors are all about the money. And I've heard it said before, like, it's such a nice side hustle to be a pastor because, you get 10% of everybody's income. And I'm like, first of all, what church do you know where 100% of the people are tithers? So I don't know where people get that from.
right.
So it's interesting. And I try really hard to listen to the voices who are going to affirm me. And if they're going to critique me, I listen to people who critique me who have credibility. So
Mm,
I think that's what's really been helpful for me is not giving my ear or attention to people who talk for the sake of talking, but they have absolutely no experience in that area. So that was difficult. And that's one of the reasons even my husband and I started we started a media company called McClendon Media Group because we know we didn't do it for the stereotypes, but we know that there are stereotypes out there where people say, well, you're only in ministry for the money, and whoever says that has never been in full-time ministry, because
Hmm.
it's not. I mean, maybe I think it might be 1% of churches where it's extremely lucrative, but for the average church, like, that's not where it's at. And so Caleb and I were like, how can we start something where we can have some extra income outside of the pulpit?
Hmm.
So I tell people, like, um, I know you look at me, you see me as a senior pastor and stuff like that, but you don't know, like, I'm a credentialed life coach. Like, I have gone through years and years of education. So I even joke with my congregation sometimes, like, y'all get this content for free, but if you book me for a coaching session or something like that, like, y'all gonna laugh at me for the prices that I charge, because what I do in the church is a labor of love. But when it comes outside of that into the marketplace, like, I have to understand that I have a family, I have a kid, I have bills and things that I have to pay for. And I'm also a valuable person. And so it took me a while to get to that level to say, you know what? If I know my worth, I can charge some stuff for that. And that is a
Yeah.
hard thing. Like, it's something, especially growing up in like a religious or Christian environment, you really have to kind of grow through that thing, because in the back of your head, you're always hearing, well, you're not supposed to like try to be wealthy or do things like that. And so you hear these things in the back of your head, and you almost have to overcome like this guilt complex. Like, can I really live a life where I'm blessed? And that's challenging. And so I think the
Hmm.
hardest thing too about being a Christian in the marketplace is telling yourself that you truly do deserve to be able to live a life that you want to live, and that it's okay, and that nobody can shame you for wanting to live a better life. People can, but you don't have to let that get on the inside of you. So that's been challenging, but I think I'm growing through that.
Yeah. Listen, you are just all in my head. That's one thing that I really, really struggle with. Like just like we talked before we came on, and like I have my t-shirt line, which is faith over
Hmm.
fear. And it's tough for
Yep.
me to charge people for things like, hey, well, how much is that? And you wanna you struggle with that. You know what I mean? You
Right.
really struggle with that, but at the same time, you know that what you're doing is just as quality as the stuff that they would
Right.
go out and buy in the store or whatever.
And it's
But it's
only
hard
the,
to
the
be.
the Christian or the church people, right? We
Yeah,
never go into Target and are like, who does Target think they are to charge me twenty one
right,
ninety nine for
right,
this shirt? We never ask questions. It's always the church. What
right.
they doing with the money over there? I never
Hmm.
go into Peninsula Town Center, swipe my credit card. I wonder what they doing with the funds. They're spending it. They're using it. It's only when it comes. It baffles me. Everybody else
Right,
can have whatever they
right,
want to have, but when it comes to church, it's like it's a no-no. It's interesting.
right. I listen. That's absolutely something that I contend with on a daily basis. I admire people so much that can be like, yeah, this hoodie is $55,
Hmm.
and say it with a straight face with no, no like. It's like,
But it's
wow,
literally like you have to grow through that. It takes a while.
mhm,
Even for shirts like that, I'm like, oh man, that's $25 for a shirt. It's pretty high.
yeah,
But then you have inventory. You gotta pay
right,
your vendors and stuff like
hmm,
that. And so I kind of am growing to a place now where it's like, you know what? Whoever can buy it, that's who my target audience is. I've for the people who complain about prices are too high, you look at their feet and they have on Yeezys and
yeah,
Jordans, and they never haggled for prices for nothing, whatever. Gucci slides. I
absolutely,
mean, I'm like,
right,
if you don't want to pay, 25, $30 for this shirt, just don't wear it. It's okay. It's
right,
okay.
right,
People pay for what they
right,
want. And I think that's kind of
right,
what I had to grow into. Like, if you want it, you'll get it.
right. Wow, it's the church folks. We have to fight through a lot of tradition and a lot of stereotypes in order to even be somewhat somewhat successful in whatever it is that we
And
what we
you
try to
know what's
do.
even funnier is we have to fight through stereotypes, but at the same time, the stereotypes that you fight, the same group of people want you to fund. So I'm gonna
Right.
fight you, but if I'm in a predicament, when you gonna help me? And I'm like,
Right.
that's hard.
Right.
Right. I ain't gonna give you no money, but if I get in a pickle, you should be able to pay for everything. And it's
Right,
like,
right. Exactly.
what do you
Exactly.
do with that? But it is all good.
Exactly.
No love
That
lost.
is
It's
wild.
growing pains.
That is super wild. Let's talk about McClendon Media Group.
Okay.
What's all entailed in that? What's the story behind
Yeah, so the funny thing is, Caleb and I have not even officially launched it yet, but at the tail end of last year, we said that we wanted to start a business to start bringing in a little extra income
that?
um, outside of the church walls because we believe that we're multi-talented. And so one of our favorite scriptures is the parable of the talents. And we realized that God did not just give us something, God invested things into us. And anytime you invest something, you want a return on your investment. And so we said,
Mm-hmm.
if God gave us some talents, how do we steward it well so that we can get a return on our investment? And so we started McClendon Media Group. Caleb, who is my husband, has a background in communication, so he has a degree in that. So we do graphics, voiceovers, podcasts, professional speaking, master classes, all forms of communication. And even though we haven't like gone super public with it and said, here we are, here's our brand, God has been so faithful. God and favor and diligent work and having super fast turnaround times have had us just meeting our goals every month. And it's been crazy. And so we also figured that, what if Jackson, who is our son, maybe he doesn't feel a call to ministry as we know it or the church world. So we said, well, with this media company, even with us doing videography and photography, what does that look like when he's 9, 10 years old to be growing up in this field? And I'm putting him on payroll, once he hits
Mm,
13 and he's
yeah,
making, $18 an hour as a 13-year-old running
wow,
around, setting up shop, training him to be a business owner. So by the time he gets to a certain age, if he doesn't want to go to college, he's already running a business and doing it well.
yeah,
And so a lot
yeah,
of the things that we do it with legacy and the next generation in mind. So that's where that really came from.
wow. Well, and all that you and your husband, you and your family, are involved in, the media group and historic and just overall ministry. This is a question that I ask to, many of my guests that are in your position.
Hmm.
Have you found a dynamic between what I find interesting is with people that do things like you do, and you do things at a high level, but
Hmm.
you have two sets of people, and and mind you, they both love you, they both want the best for you, but one side will say, hey Leslie, I know some people who are trying to do what you did and what you're doing, and it didn't work out for them. They lost their money, they lost their shirt, they lost blah blah blah. Maybe you should either stop or slow down, or you know get with somebody get with somebody that's doing it and just be a part of their movement. But
Hmm.
then on the other side, you have a group of people who will say, Leslie, you supposed to be the next Jenny White, Paula White, not Jenny White, Paula White. I
Pick
went
a
to school with
different
her.
one. Pick a
I went to,
different one. Don't pick
you know,
Paula. She
or
was the one
uh,
summoning the African angels.
you know what you get what I'm trying to say though. You're
I
supposed to
do.
be the
I get what
next.
you're saying.
You're
Yeah,
supposed to be the next Sarah Jakes Roberts.
I got you.
You're supposed to be on nothing. So you should be doing more. You should be in front of the camera more. You should be doing more interviews. You should
Yeah.
be hit the road. Start doing a tour. Create some type of ministry like Juanita Bynum with the
Yeah.
sheets and everything and all that. But mind you, both sides love you. But one side is saying you're doing too much, and then the other
Hmm.
side is saying you're not doing enough. Have you experienced that in your walk, in your process?
Yeah, but the funny thing is, I don't know that I've experienced it externally as much as I have internally.
Mm,
That's an
mm,
internal war that I deal with where it's like, hey, Leslie, build your base right now. You've always got something to do, later versus, hey, there's so much that can be done. You have all these giftings and talents now. Let's just go for it. Let's build our brand. And so that's an
mm,
internal struggle that I work with, because I think everybody has like a minister inside of them, but then there's also like this business person too, and they fight each other. They don't get along, and so that's
Right.
been hard trying to reconcile them. And so I'm kind of learning now um, priority. So even with Historic and McClendon Media Group, those have been wonderful avenues for me. But I'm in a season right now where I'm in my first year of my pastorate. And so I have to prioritize like, okay, well, this is my main job, and everything after that is a supplement. But there will come a time where, because I'm staying consistent with McClendon Media Group and Historic, even though it may not be as big as C3 right now, one day that's going to flip. I'm going to have to transition C3 to another successor, and I'm going to want
Mhm.
something to fall back on. And so that's how I reconcile it. And I think why a lot of people aren't transitioning in leadership too is because many leaders and pastors have put their full identity in ministry. And so when they hit 60 or 62 or 70, it's like, well, if you take this church away from me, I don't know who I am. I already got a
Mm,
plan. I want to put in 18 to 23 years. I'm going to be a high performance coach. Like I already know ministry
mm.
is a part of my life. But when I retire, I already know what I'm going to retire to. So it's not like y'all got to
Wow.
keep me, on the church books till I go on to glory. No, I'm going to transition well so that the next pastor can do what they need to do, because I'm going to be off doing what I need to do. So,
Wow. And I don't think you realize, um, I really don't think you realize what an alien you are. Like what you're saying to me is like it's blowing me away because it's like I've never I've never I've never heard a pastor say that they have a plan after or they've already looked for. If
mm-hmm.
you always get the sense you always get the sense that they're going to do it till whenever. You know what I'm saying? You never
Yep. Yeah.
I've never heard I've never heard that. You know what I'm saying? You are definitely one of one. I've never heard that
I
before.
appreciate that. Thank
Um
you.
yeah, no problem. And like I said, just from kind of getting a sense of who you are, from the videos and everything like that. It's just you just seem to be on a different you just seem to be on a different path. Um and I'm sure because we touched on it earlier that it can be tough sometimes because people might see what you're doing as to what you're
Mm-hmm.
a contradiction to your calling.
Yep.
So, like, do you work? Do you make a concerted effort to kind of dispel that, or do you just live? You just do what you do,
You got
and
it.
you know.
I think that for a large part of my 20s, I tried to combat that. And I would like to say that I slept on myself for a long time because I was so concerned with the opinions of other people. But now I'm at a point in my life where it's like, I feel so confident in who God has made me and called me to be, that whether there are opinions out there or not, I got to know that I'm true to myself, you know? And that has really freed me, that I'm just going, that's what I felt the Lord told me like the end of last year. All right. He's like, are you mine yet? And I'm like, oh, that
Mm,
stung a little bit. He's like, so
mm,
you, so you mine yet, or you still belong to you? And once I made that shift, like, okay, God, you're right. If you put something in me, I'm just going to live it. And whether there are rumors, accusations, dissension, people going to say what they want to say. If you succeed, they're going to talk. If you fail, they're going to talk. So
right.
why not? If you fail, at least fail forward. And if you succeed, great. So that's kind of the mindset that I have now.
And you know what I found? Just from being a lay member, talking to lay members, people don't even know. They really don't have an idea what all entailed in being in a ministry, especially at the
Mhm.
level that you're at. They don't even know what it means to be a pastor. They don't even know what it means to be called. They don't know what it means to be purpose. They don't even know what that. just that word pastor
Right.
carries. And for the most part, as long as you're doing what they think that you should be doing, they really don't care until
Hmm.
you mess up. Then they say,
I hate
"Oh,
that.
she's supposed to be a pastor." But before that, they don't even know what a pastor is. But until you mess up,
Man,
that's when they say she's supposed to be a pastor.
I have to speak into that. I was talking to my husband about that the other day. I said, what's crazy is it's like people want you to fail, right?
Mm,
So I tell people like my husband and I actually like each other. Like I know there are a lot of relationships out here where they do it for social media. Like we're friends first. All the romance stuff, that's cool. But at the end of the day, like if we can't do that and we can watch Hulu, we're happy, right? But it's like people want you to fail. If you have a happy relationship, they look at you like they hiding something. Something ain't
right,
right. You know what I'm
right.
saying? So it's like you want people to live in integrity. And then when they try to do that and live in integrity, you're looking at them like they hiding something. Something is wrong. And then
Hmm.
when they fail, I knew the whole time. They don't live in nothing.
Right.
So that's when I learned that you really can't go off of people's expectations because they're
Mhm.
either too high, I was gonna say, or they're too low, but they're just too high. Like if
Yeah.
I do well and I live right, you think that I'm hiding something. But if I live wrong, see, that's why every preacher is messed up.
Right.
It's a lose lose. So it's like just live who God called you to be because people are gonna talk whether you live right or you live wrong. So
When I when I before I got with you to do this interview, um I got this quote from somebody about you. And
oh
I'm gonna
gosh.
read it. I'm gonna read it to you if that's okay.
Okay.
And tell me, and then we're gonna play a little game. I'm gonna read this
Okay.
post this quote to you, and I want you to tell me who you think wrote this. Okay, Leslie is a high capacity leader. She is
Hmm.
so unapologetically herself, which has forced her to create her own lane that generations to come will follow as a blueprint. If she thinks it, you can almost guarantee that it will be so. She is an innovative pastor, a thoughtful wife, an incredible mother, and she is left handed.
That's funny.
So,
I
who do you think that is?
don't
First of
know, but it
all,
sounds like
no,
okay.
before you say that, what do you think about that quote?
It sounds like something that I would write. That's why I'm laughing.
Oh wow.
It humbles me if I didn't write it. If I did write it, I guess the confidence the Lord is in me. But man, that's amazing. Whoever wrote it, I love them.
Now, who do you think wrote that?
I don't, I don't know, and I'm so competitive. I don't like to lose. Um, who wrote? I mean, I don't know. I
They
need a.
said
Can you give me a guess, a hint?
they said that from what they wrote, you would know exactly who it was. So I guess there's some hidden hints within the statement that you should know.
I'm drawing a blank. The male or female?
I'm not gonna say.
I don't. I don't know. Somebody, if you're watching this, text me.
uh,
Who is it? I'm gonna know it once you say that too. I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. I give up. I don't know. I draw. Now I need to
okay.
know. What is it? What
It,
does it start with?
it was his, their initials are CM.
I was gonna say my husband, but then I was like, that sounds like something I like. I don't know. But when he says you're
No,
left-handed, he is it my husband? I guess so.
yes.
He
Yeah.
he made a whole big day for me in August for Left-Handers Day. So your shame,
Wow.
Caleb. I felt like that was too easy. I didn't want to. I don't know. Thank you for thinking that of me. It means a lot.
um, we're gonna. I just have a couple more
That's funny.
questions.
Okay.
And because I know you're very, very busy. Um, what would you say is the most common misconception about you?
Ooh, I wrestled with this question a little bit. Um, but I think the most common misconception about me is that I am where I am because of nepotism, meaning that my parents just gave me a church, um, or that it's easy to work in family ministry and I don't do anything.
Wow.
Which is farther from the truth because I tell people you can think working in a ministry family is easy all you want to, but I'm like, how many families do you know that get along at the dinner table, let alone working in ministry
Right.
alongside one another? And so I tell people that, when you think about it, God is a generational God. He said that I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So we can preach that, but when it comes to the church, we look at it differently. And so I tell people, like, I'm blessed to be in ministry with my family. But I also say, if you look at my track record, you'll know that I'm qualified, right? I got a bachelor's in ministry, a master's of divinity, a doctorate from Duke University, a credentialed life coach, been in this thing since I was a long time, well, preaching what it is that I believe in. And so I think that that's a common misconception sometimes, like, well, you inherited this and you just got it because somebody else gave it to you. And I think it's one thing to get something, but it's another thing to sustain something. Because if you look at it from that perspective, we should have been wiped out a long time ago when that pandemic
Mm,
happened last year. But the grace
absolutely.
of God upon our life and leadership and what God has been able to do, we've sustained 5 generations watching every single Sunday for the last year in the middle of a pandemic. And so
Yeah,
I think that that's a huge misconception that, you were just given something when it's like you're qualified.
absolutely. I lied to you. I got one question.
Uh oh.
One question in between that. Uh,
Okay.
um, dang, it just slipped out. It just slipped out of my mind. Just that quick. It slipped out of my mind. That's crazy.
Shout out to everybody who's going to be watching this on the replay too. You know how it be
Absolutely.
when you live, you be like, I'm not clicking on live. I don't want anybody to see my name. I'm going to wait till
Right.
it's over and then I'll watch.
Oh, I remembered. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Um, going back to the research aspect again.
Yep.
One other thing I kind of observed is that you're very practical in your
Hmm.
in your expression of the gospel and everything. And that seems it's funny to me because of your educational background. You know what I'm saying? It's not a whole lot of big words. It's not a whole lot of these and thous. It's not a whole lot of, extra stuff. It's still very palatable, very, very, like I said, very practical. You use it in
Hmm.
everyday things, and I'm gonna tell you that the phrase that you use, you said perfection is not the goal, progression is. Oh
Yep.
man, listen, I passed out at work. I was like, come
It's
on.
true.
but but yeah, I mean, and that was one thing that I really admired in the observance of you is the practical. Is that purposeful? Like, where do you think you can where do you attribute that to? Your practicalness, if I can make up a word,
Yeah.
and your expression.
Um, I think because I have all of the formal education and degrees and stuff, there had come, Caleb, be quiet. There had come a point in my life where I was so entrenched in theology and Greek and Hebrew and all that kind of stuff that I got to a point where I really felt like I almost studied my faith away. And really being immersed into things that I couldn't understand caused me to be more agnostic than I was a believer. And when I got through all of that kind of stuff, I said, okay, well, I did all the hard work of finding out the behind the scenes and the context and the language. But if I talk to the average person, they don't care what the Greek says. They can't
Mm-hmm.
read or pronounce that word. How can I
Mm-hmm.
get the gospel to where when I preach or present this, somebody says, I can digest that and live that. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really where that came from. So when people leave, they can actually take what I said or what God said through me and actually apply it. And I think too, like one of the pet peeves for me have been in a lot of churches where I'm not anti shouting or anything like that. I love a good preaching every now and then. But I think one of my pet peeves too was when people will go to church and say, "Hey, Doc, we church today." Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Well, what was the sermon about? I don't know, but we had some good
Right.
church. And
Right.
I just don't want that to
Right.
be the testimony at C3 where we had a good time, we had church and God moved, but I don't know what I'm supposed to meditate on come Monday. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know that I got a good two-step in, but I don't know what I'm supposed to apply. And so the practicality aspect was when you come to church on Sunday, I want that to be like a gas station. You getting filled up. So then
Mm-hmm.
when Monday comes, I'm full. Okay, I can live this thing. I can make it to next
Mm-hmm.
Sunday where I need to get, another filling. And so that's where that kind of came from.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, you are definitely the exception to the rule. Like you said something earlier that I was like, I wanted you to say it again. You said, I don't want to get it wrong. I'm gonna paraphrase, but you said that God doesn't give us things. He invests in us, and He's
Yep.
trying to return. Could you say that again? How did you say?
Yeah. So with the parable of talents, God didn't just give you a gift, God invested it into you. And anytime somebody invests something, they expect a return on their investment. And I tell people,
Absolutely.
I said, now this can be challenging, right? With the parable of the talents, the person who didn't do anything, they hid their talent, they buried it in the ground. The master looked at the servant and said, "You wicked and lazy servant, take that person to outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth."
Mm,
And this could be a reach. I could be stretching. Don't take it as Bible. This is just my interpretation, how I feel that God speaks to me. I said, isn't it interesting that he cast them to outer darkness, weeping and gnashing of teeth? He didn't say nothing about you ain't treat nobody right, like you
mhm,
sinned, you did all this other kind of stuff. No, take him to outer darkness because he didn't use what I gave him. And I thought about that. Like, what if we are perishing away and going to places that we have no business being in because we don't do with what the things that God has put inside of us? And it just hit me in a whole nother light.
wow.
And I said,
Wow.
that's crazy.
That's powerful. That's absolutely powerful. Um, like I said, I could go. Listen, I could go on asking you questions. I really, when I say I looked forward to this, I really did. Um, this is going to be my last question.
Okay.
I'm gonna force this to be the last question.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
This is a question.
we could do a part two later down the road. So if you come up with some more
Absolutely.
questions, that's cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This final question is a question that I ask all my guests.
Hmm.
Once I ask it, I want you to take a minute and kind of think about it and just give me the most honest, transparent, open answer that you possibly can.
Okay.
And the question is this: what would have to happen in your life if it hasn't happened already for you to consider your life a success? What does success look like to you? What does, when you hear that word, for you specifically, what is success? What does that word mean to
Great question. And I can be honest. um, you know, success on the front end looks like to me that my family knows my name because I
you?
prioritize them. I do not want to be a success where everybody knows my name in the world, but my son can't stand to see me come home. My husband is tired of me. I want my family to know that I'm present. I want the people that I'm called to serve and hear me speak um, to actually see and believe that I live the life that I preach about and that I run my life instead of letting life run me. I think that that's
Mm,
success to me. Um, Success to me is also on a good day that people see me the way that I see myself. Because that's not
Mm,
always to say that I have great days. Sometimes I have off days too. But when I'm in a good headspace and I see the person that God has called me to be, I see the person who is faithful to family, who is honoring God, who is living what they're preaching, who is living an abundant life, who doesn't have to worry about, random debts and things hanging over my head, who can do whatever they want whenever they want to on a whim. That is
mhm,
success to me. To be able to go out to eat and I see a waiter or a waitress just serving food and me saying, "Hey, how much do you have left on your card balance? I want to pay that off today."
mm.
Like
Wow.
unparalleled generosity. That's
Mhm,
success to me. For people to look and say, "Is this what it was like when Jesus walked the earth?" Not to say that I'm Jesus, because I ain't nobody's savior, but to
right,
have
right.
somebody who actually lived the same way that God did would be pretty cool.
Wow. You said a mouthful there. Um, wow. That was my final question. Um, if there's somebody out there that um heard something tonight and had questions, or maybe they needed advice, or maybe they want to sew into McClendon Media Group or Historic, or maybe they want to purchase some T-shirts or some some things like that, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I have a website. It is historic.bigcartel.com. Caleb, will you help me out and put some of that in the chat for me? Also, I am on Instagram, so you can follow me. I think it's up here at Leslie F. McClendon, and you can send an email. And honestly, I Saints don't like the word luck, but you lucked out too because I do not check my DMs as much as I should. So the fact that I saw, even with this Instagram stuff and the direct message,
Mhm,
like it must have been
mhm.
for this interview to happen because I'm not the best person
Absolutely.
in the DMs. But email is amazing. So
Yeah.
that is the website. Email's up there too. Caleb put it up there. And also you can email me whenever to get in touch. Follow me on Instagram, add me as a friend on Facebook. And I'm just honored that you would invite me on your platform. Thank you for having this conversation with me today, for encouraging me. I even heard some good nuggets from you. And so it feels really good to have someone say that they have researched you and that it wasn't anything that was just like horrible. Like, we got to talk about this. So that was super encouraging. So thank you so much for sharing what you did.
Yeah. I mean, I like I said, I look and I research and I just kind of get a sense Holy Spirit speaks. However, and like I said, it doesn't seem nothing seems coerced, or it doesn't seem staged or anything like that. You have people who will post a lot of things just for the sole benefit of you seeing what it is that they have. Like if they got a new
Mhm.
Gucci belt, or if they,
Yeah.
whatever.
Mhm.
But I don't get that sense from you, you guys. You are actually happy living life, and you're
Yeah.
posting because you're happy living life, and it
Yeah.
comes through. Like I said, it comes through in everything. Like it comes through in your encouraging moments. It comes through, just in your ministry, just very practical, very very simple and plain, very,
Thank you.
like a child. And
I
so
did
I just
recognize your
really
quote,
want to.
Caleb. But I appreciate you for saying that. And that's my last thing too. Like, I haven't always been in this headspace. I'm still gearing up. Like, I'm gonna do a Facebook live probably sometime soon.
Mhm,
And the title is gonna be Help, I'm a Hater. And I say that because I remember just two 2 years ago driving on the interstate and God told me, like, you're a hater. And I was like, what do you mean? I was
mhm,
comparing myself to other ministries, other people. Like,
mhm.
I'm gifted. I could be doing that. Why are you blessing them? All that kind of stuff. He's like, stop being a hater. And when I
Yeah,
switched my focus to say, you know what, there's some jealousy in there. I need to start celebrating that person. My life switched. And people don't want to
yeah,
be honest and say stuff like that. But I had some haterish attitudes. People like to talk about their haters, but they don't
Yeah.
acknowledge the fact that they got a little
Yeah.
hater in them. And when I dealt with
Right.
that, I feel like it helped my life so much. So
Right. 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 That is so awesome. That is so awesome. I posted one time a long time ago, that it said, oh, so there's no such thing as haters. Somebody's lying. Nobody,
right.
something like that. But yeah, and it just brought that to my memory. But I just want to thank you. I have thoroughly enjoyed this interview.
Same.
I just thank you for coming on. I appreciate, you taking the time out because I know you could be doing a million zillion other things, and I just appreciate it. I want to send blessings to your family. Shout out to
Thank you.
Associate Pastor Caleb, um, my man Jarrell Taylor. What's going
Yeah.
on? Uh, and
He's amazing too.
yeah, yes, he is absolutely. I'm a member of RCCVA, Apostle Charlie
Hmm.
and Pastor Vicky. So yeah, amazing ministry. Shout out to RCCVA and everybody that supported.
Shout out.
And when I said that I was interviewing you, a lot of people hit me up and was like, "Yeah, I got to see that." You people really love you. They really like pay
Thank
attention
y'all
to
so
what you're
much.
doing. So yeah, please know that. But do you have any last parting words for the people out there?
Um, I don't know. Trust God. Let God be God in your life, and it'll change your life. Don't be afraid to fail, and if you're gonna fail, make sure that you fail forward. Don't make the same mistake twice, but don't be afraid to take risks. And I think if we can do that, it'll be revolutionary. So yeah, those are my parting words. And I guess if I could say anything that's good, I just finished a sermon series on habits, and I've been practicing some daily disciplines in my life. And one sentence has really like set me free and helped me out when it comes to daily disciplines, habits, drinking water, reading more of my word, reading other material, sharpening myself. If you miss one day, don't miss two. That has changed
Mm,
my life. So when it comes to daily disciplines, find some rhythms that you can get in your life. And if you miss one day, don't miss two. And that's how you can be successful in your habits.
wow.
So
Thank
those
you
are my
very, very
words.
much. Wow. Thank you very, very, very much. I really appreciate that. And
Thank
like I said,
you.
I thoroughly enjoyed this interview. Um,
Thank you for making it easy.
nope. Hey, listen.
I really
Whew.
appreciate you setting me up to do well.
No, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything.
You're a great interviewer and host, and I enjoyed
Thank
the
you.
conversation.
Thank you. And can you get a message to your husband that I am looking for him to come on next? And don't make me send people after
Caleb, you hear that?
him.
Watch me disappear in the comments. I am sure that he will be open to doing that. Oh, he has some. He's good on the cuff too. So I actually would love to. He's watching Jackson now in the room, so
Okay.
I would love to switch seats and watch Jackson and watch him be interviewed because Caleb is so supportive, but I think people
Yeah.
sleep on him and they don't really know like how much knowledge and wisdom he possesses. Like I push him so often, like, dude, you gotta write, get a book out there, do more podcasting because the perspectives that he has are like amazing. Oh, look, he just confirmed. He said I'm down
Yes,
for
sir.
it. So there you go. You can
Yes,
hold him
sir.
to it.
Yes, sir. I have a question for him. Not like that. I would ask him, and he can think about this for when we talk. You know, do you, does he ever feel like there's a challenge to find his voice, his his vision, and is it a does he feel at times overwhelmed by
Yeah,
your platform? Does it
that's a
does
great
it hinder
question.
it? Does it hinder his vision or his goal? But that's rhetorical for right now. He doesn't have to answer that right
I
now.
can't. I'm here for. I can't wait to hear that interview.
Yeah.
I'm sharing that one as soon as it comes up. I'm sharing it, and then I'm gonna share it at the 15-minute mark, then the 30-minute mark. Then I'm gonna keep sharing.
Okay. Oh
So yeah,
wow.
please make that happen. I would definitely look forward to that conversation because I think people need
Absolutely.
to hear that perspective. And it's one thing for me to ask him those questions, but it's another thing for somebody who's not married to him to ask, okay, so how do you really feel? What do you really
Right.
think? Man to man. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, okay? Put
Right.
it out
Right.
there.
Right.
You might
Well,
even throw me
again.
under the bus a couple times. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it.
Wow. Well, again, Dr. Leslie, I really appreciate you coming on. I was inspired and encouraged, to say the least, by this interview, and I look forward to having Pastor Caleb on, and possibly you guys together, maybe. Or, I don't know, maybe down the road.
Yeah,
But
let us know.
I wish blessings on your family and all your on in your ministry, as well as every business platform that you're creating. I wish innumerable blessings on it, and
Thank you.
just continue to be, who you are. I really feel like, um, if there are any people out there who are anything like me, I'm sure you're breaking a lot of chains and you're making a lot of progress in your ministry. So just continue to be, who you are, and that's all I got.
Well, I
I'll
I
know.
appreciate this. Thank you. And those of you who are watching, if you haven't shared, please share it on your timeline so other people can see this
Absolutely.
interview and we can get the word out there. And I hope you have an amazing night. And all the things that you prayed for me, I pray the same for you and your family as
Thank you.
well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You have an awesome night and an awesome
All right.
weekend. All right.
You
Thank you
too.
again. All right.
Take care. Good night.
Take care. Good night. That was a great interview with Dr. Leslie Francisco McClendon. We talked about ministry. We talked about pandemics. We talked about Christians in the marketplace. We just talked. You know what I'm saying? This was an interview that I absolutely looked forward to. If you missed the beginning, you can go on YouTube as well. Um, Let's Take a Walk featuring Leslie F. McClendon. Please like, subscribe, and share. Hit the notification button. We're trying to get the subscribers up, so please go on YouTube and look at Let's Take a Walk featuring Leslie F. McClendon. Like I said, please like, share, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. But that it was definitely one of those interviews that I absolutely look forward to. There was a lot of nuggets that were left on this interview. I plan on going back and watching it myself. Um, Sometimes you have people on that are just so they're just so connected that it's almost like they're speaking your mind. Like a lot of things that she expressing were things that was thinking or have thought. You know what I'm saying? Or how it was crazy. And it's interviews like this where you don't even really have to. It's not work. You just kind of let them go, and that was one of the. This was one of those times. This is one of those easy times. You know what I mean? I'm floored by some of the things that I've heard today. She is definitely an exception to most of the rules that we have come to know as far as ministry and church is concerned. And so, absolutely, I absolutely can intend on, paying even more attention to the, the C3 movement and all that, and all the ministry and everything that she puts out. Just awesome, just awesome. But with that being said, next week I'll see you guys Next Friday, we're gonna have an interesting situation going on next Friday. We're gonna have some young ladies on and a gentleman. Shout out to Jamal King Whitaker, and we're gonna discuss beauty in present time. What is beauty? What's considered beauty? What do we consider beauty nowadays? What influences what's beautiful and what's not? What's considered beautiful and what's not? Um, I look forward to that. I look forward to that that interview, and I hope you guys come and check it out too. And please shoot out any comments or opinions or whatever. Or if you have some questions that you want me to ask in that interview ahead of time, shoot me. Shoot them to me, and I will definitely put them out there. But again, I want to thank Dr. Leslie McClendon for coming on. It was definitely a blessing. And I thank everybody that, you know, didn't count it robbery to come on and check out what we were talking about and chime in and participate in it. It's always better when people show, you know what I mean? What is it? What do they say? Something about showing how much you care until something like that. But you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm very bad with those types of things. But anyway, I'm gonna get off of here. But I will see you guys next week. I thank you for coming on, and I appreciate you dearly. And again, go on to YouTube. Let's Take a Walk featuring Leslie F. McClendon. Please like, share, and subscribe. And share. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Please share this on your pages. Share it to your friends' pages, and tell them to share as well. That's that. All right. Let's take a walk.